The pregnancy test sits on the bathroom counter, mocking me with its single pink line. Negative. Again. Just like the last 17 times I've peed on these overpriced sticks, hoping for a different result that might give me leverage to win Larry back. I throw it in the trash with the others, wondering when exactly I became the kind of woman who sleeps with strangers from dive bars, praying for a positive result I can use to trap my ex-husband back into a conversation. 18 months ago, I had everything under control. A devoted husband who worshipped the ground I walked on, a beautiful house in West Omaha, a cushy job as a nurse practitioner at Methodist Hospital, and a plan to have my cake and eat it too. Now I'm living in a one-bedroom apartment near Benson, sleeping on sheets that smell like the previous tenant's cat. The radiator clanks all night, a constant rhythmic reminder that I traded my silence and comfort for noise and regret. I watch Larry post photos with his new girlfriend on Facebook, a woman who's everything I pretended to be but never was. My name is Andrea, and I'm the architect of my own destruction. The woman who asked for an open marriage because I thought my husband was too pathetic to actually find someone else. The woman who learned too late that sometimes the quiet ones surprise you in the worst possible way. I should have known Larry wasn't as simple as I thought the day he fixed my car in the hospital parking lot. I was having a bad day. 12-hour shift, difficult patients, and then my Camry wouldn't start. This IT guy from the third floor appeared with jumper cables and a shy smile, getting my car running without making me feel stupid about not knowing how to do it myself. "I'm Larry," he said, wiping grease from his hands onto his khakis. "I've seen you around. You work in cardiology, right?" I was used to doctors hitting on me, guys with egos bigger than their student loan debt who thought nurses were easy targets, but Larry was different, soft-spoken, genuinely helpful, the kind of guy who held doors and remembered your coffee order, the kind of guy I thought I could manage. We dated for 3 years before he proposed. He did it at Memorial Park during the Rose Garden Festival, down on one knee with a ring he'd saved for months to buy. I said yes, because that's what you do when a good man asks you to marry him, when your friends all say you're lucky to find someone so devoted, when your mother keeps reminding you that you're 24 and not getting any younger. The wedding was everything I wanted. Larry let me plan every detail, never complaining about the cost, or my bridezilla moments. He just smiled and said whatever made me happy made him happy. I mistook his kindness for weakness. I thought I'd found the perfect situation, a man who'd never leave me, never cheat, never make demands. A safe harbor while I kept my options open. For the first few years, it worked exactly as I'd planned. Larry was predictable in the best and worst ways. He'd come home from work, ask about my day, help with dinner, and then disappear into his office to play video games or tinker with computers. He was affectionate but not demanding, supportive but not controlling. He gave me space, trusted me completely, never questioned when I had girls' nights that ran until 2 in the morning. The problem started when I turned 30. All my friends were having babies, posting those announcement photos with tiny shoes and ultrasound pictures. My Instagram feed became a parade of pregnancy bumps and gender reveals. Meanwhile, Larry and I had been trying for 2 years, with nothing to show for it but medical bills and disappointment. The fertility specialist said everything looked normal. Sometimes it just takes time. But I saw the pity in her eyes, the same look I gave patients when I had to deliver bad news. Larry handled it better than I did, holding my hand and saying we'd figure it out together, that we had options, that he loved me no matter what. His patience made me angry. I wanted him to be upset, to blame someone, to rage against the unfairness of it all. Instead, he researched adoption agencies and IVF clinics, created spreadsheets comparing costs and success rates. He bought prenatal vitamins in bulk and tracked my ovulation cycle more carefully than I did. His systematic approach to our fertility made me feel like a broken machine he was trying to fix, as if my failure to work properly was just another technical problem on his checklist. That's when Dr. Nathan Reeves transferred to our hospital from Chicago. Tall, divorced, with salt and pepper hair and hands that looked like they belonged in a medical textbook. He flirted shamelessly during staff meetings, found excuses to stop by the cardiology unit, always had a comment about my scrubs bringing out my eyes. I should have shut it down immediately. Should have mentioned my husband, shown off my wedding ring, maintained professional boundaries. Instead, I flirted back. Nothing serious at first, just enjoying the attention, the reminder that I was still desirable despite my apparently defective reproductive system. The Christmas party changed everything. Larry had to work late, some server crisis that couldn't wait. Nathan offered to drive me home after I'd had too much wine. We ended up parked outside my house, talking for hours about his divorce, my frustrations, the paths our lives had taken. When he kissed me, I didn't stop him. When he suggested we get a hotel room, I said yes. The guilt hit immediately after. I lay there in the Marriott watching Nathan sleep, thinking about Larry at home, probably asleep on the couch with his laptop still open, waiting for me to come home. I slipped out before Nathan woke up, drove home in last night's dress, and found Larry exactly where I'd imagined, passed out on the couch with work emails still glowing on his screen. "Hey, you're home," he mumbled when I woke him. "How was the party?" "Fine. Boring. You didn't miss anything." He smiled sleepily and pulled me in for a hug. "Love you." "Love you too." The words tasted like ash in my mouth. I tried to forget about Nathan, to recommit to my marriage, to be the wife Larry deserved. But Nathan wouldn't let it go. He'd corner me in supply closets, whisper about how good we were together, how his condo had a better view than my suburban house. He made me feel chosen in a way Larry's steady devotion never did. The affairs, plural, because Nathan wasn't the only one, became my secret rebellion against the life that felt too small. There was James from CrossFit, younger and reckless, who made me feel 22 again. There was Miguel from my book club, who wrote poetry and looked at me like I was art. Each one was an escape from the reality of ovulation tests, and Larry's hopeful face every month when he asked if maybe this time was different. But I was careful. Different phones for different men. Stories about conferences and training seminars. Larry never questioned anything because why would he? I was his wife. He trusted me completely. The open marriage idea came to me after reading some lifestyle blog about polyamory. The article made it sound evolved and sophisticated, like monogamy was outdated and restrictive. But really, I just wanted permission to keep doing what I was already doing without the exhausting lies. I planned the conversation carefully. Made Larry's favorite dinner, pot roast with those little potatoes he loved, wore the green dress he'd bought me for my birthday, waited until he was relaxed and happy before broaching the subject. "I've been thinking," I started, refilling his wine glass, "about us, about our marriage." His face immediately went concerned. "What's wrong? Did I do something?" No, nothing like that. I read this article about open marriages, about how some couples find it strengthens their bond." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Larry set down his fork, pushed his plate away, and looked at me with eyes that suddenly seemed much older than his 33 years. "You want to sleep with other people?" It wasn't a question. "I want us to explore ourselves," I said, using the language from the article. "To grow as individuals while maintaining our primary partnership." "Is there someone specific you want to explore?" "No, this isn't about anyone else. It's about us, about not letting our marriage become stagnant." He was quiet for so long I thought he might just get up and leave. Then he nodded slowly. "Okay. Okay? If that's what you need, okay. But I want rules, full transparency, protection always, no one we know, and either of us can call it off at any time." I agreed immediately, already mentally breaking every rule he'd laid out. What mattered was that I had permission now. I could stop sneaking around, stop deleting texts, stop feeling guilty every time I came home with my hair smelling like another man's cologne. That night, I made a crucial mistake. I texted my sister Bethany about the conversation, giddy with my perceived victory. He actually agreed. Can you believe it? I mean, it's not like Larry's going to find anyone anyway. Who's going to want a pudgy IT nerd who spends his weekends building computers? I didn't know I'd left my iPad logged in on the kitchen counter. Didn't know Larry would see the notification pop up while making his morning coffee. The screen lit up with a ping that sounded like a gunshot in the quiet kitchen. I can picture it now. Him freezing, coffee mug midair, watching his eyes shift from the steaming cup to the glowing screen. Didn't know those careless words would be the match that lit the fuse on my destruction. For 2 weeks, nothing changed. Larry went to work, came home, acted normal. Maybe a little quieter than usual, but I was too busy planning my newly sanctioned adventures to notice. I reactivated my Tinder profile, started openly texting Nathan, made plans with James for the weekend. Then Larry came home with a different haircut. Nothing dramatic, just styled instead of his usual shapeless mop. The next week, he was going to the gym after work. Then, new clothes started appearing. Fitted shirts instead of baggy polos, jeans that actually fit, shoes that weren't held together with duct tape. "You look nice," I commented one morning, surprised to find him making a protein shake instead of his usual Pop-Tarts. "Thanks, just trying something new." I should have paid attention, should have noticed he was on his phone more, smiling at texts, taking calls in another room. But I was too wrapped up in my own affairs to see that my safe, predictable husband was transforming in front of my eyes. The first time I saw her was purely by accident. I'd told Larry I was working late, but my shift had been canceled. I decided to surprise him with takeout from his favorite Thai place. When I pulled into our driveway, there was a silver Audi I didn't recognize parked next to his Civic. Through the window, I could see them in the living room. She was blonde, petite, laughing at something on his laptop. They weren't touching, weren't doing anything inappropriate. Just sitting on the couch with a respectful distance between them, looking at something that made her throw her head back and laugh while Larry grinned like I hadn't seen him grin in years. I sat in my car for 20 minutes watching them, watching how animated Larry became when he talked, using his hands to explain something, watching how she leaned in when he spoke, actually interested in whatever nerdy thing he was showing her, watching my husband be a version of himself I'd forgotten existed. When she finally left, I waited another 10 minutes before going inside. Larry was cleaning up coffee cups, humming something under his breath. "Hey," I said, setting the takeout on the counter. "Got off early." "Oh, cool, smells good." He kissed my cheek, casual as always. "How was your day?" "Fine. Whose car was that?" "Just a friend from the gym. She wanted to see the gaming setup I built." A friend from the gym he'd been going to for exactly 3 weeks. A friend with a $60,000 car who looked like she stepped out of a Pinterest board. A friend who made my husband hum. That night, I created a fake Tinder profile. Just to see. Just to check what kind of profiles were out there. What kind of women were available for average guys like Larry. I wasn't prepared for what I found. Larry's profile was simple, but effective. Recent photos showing his weight loss progress, a bio that was actually funny, interests that went beyond games and computers to include hiking, cooking, and travel. He'd presented himself as interesting, available, and emotionally intelligent. The Larry on Tinder was someone I would have swiped right on. The worst part was his relationship status. Ethically non-monogamous, married but exploring separately, not looking for anything serious, just good conversation and better adventures. Ethically non-monogamous. He'd taken my selfish request and turned it into something that sounded mature and reasonable. Something that made him the good guy and me the cliché of a bored wife looking for excitement. I matched with him using my fake profile, some stock photos of a brunette named Jessica. He was charming in the messages, funny and engaging without being creepy or pushy. When Jessica asked about his marriage, he was honest but not bitter. My wife and I are in different places right now. She wanted to open things up, and I realized maybe that's what we both needed. It's actually been really clarifying. Clarifying, like I was a problem he'd finally diagnosed. The real shock came when I did some social media stalking on the blonde, Marissa Chen, according to her LinkedIn. Software engineer at a Fortune 500 company, marathon runner, volunteer at the animal shelter, the kind of woman who had her life together, who didn't need a man but might want one, the kind of woman who made me feel like a fraud in my own life. Larry had been seeing her for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of coffee dates and gym sessions and shared interests I didn't know he had. 3 weeks of becoming someone I'd convinced myself he could never be. 3 weeks of proving me catastrophically wrong. The confrontation came on a Thursday. I'd spent the day spiraling, checking Marissa's Instagram, seeing posts of hiking trails I recognized, restaurant check-ins at places Larry and I had never been. She didn't post photos of him, but I knew he was there. Could feel his presence in her increased happiness, her vague posts about good things coming. I was 3 glasses of wine deep when Larry came home, later than usual, with that post-gym glow that meant he'd probably been with her. We need to talk, I said, aiming for calm but landing on drunk and desperate. Okay. He sat down across from me, not beside me. When had he stopped sitting beside me? I want to close the marriage. He blinked slowly, processing. Why? Because this isn't working, because I miss us, because you know about Marissa. Not a question, a statement. He knew that I knew, had probably been waiting for this conversation. It's not fair, I said, hating how whiny my voice sounded. This whole thing was a mistake. You said I was too ugly to find anyone else. The words hit like ice water. He'd seen the text to Bethany. Of course he had. I didn't mean... You did mean it. You meant it when you wrote it, when you laughed about it with your sister, when you asked for this arrangement thinking I'd sit at home while you did whatever you wanted. Larry, please, I'm sorry, I was wrong. Can't we just go back to how things were? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You mean back to when you were cheating on me? What? Dr. Reeves, the CrossFit instructor, that guy from your book club? Did you think I was really that stupid? My stomach dropped. How did you... I work in IT, Andrea. I've known for months. I stayed because I loved you, because I thought maybe it was just a phase, because I kept hoping you'd remember what we had. Then why agree to the open marriage? Because you finally asked for something honest. Because I thought maybe if we made it official, you'd realize what you were risking. But mostly because I was tired of being the safety net you scorned. He stood up, pulled an envelope from his laptop bag, set it on the table between us. That's the divorce papers. I'm buying you out of the house. You can have the car, the furniture, whatever you want. I just want this done. You can't just... We need counseling. We need to talk about this. We're talking right now. You wanted to explore yourself? Congratulations! You explored yourself right out of a marriage. He left that night, stayed with his brother, while I destroyed our bedroom in a rage that embarrassed me even as I was doing it. I threw away the fertility tests, the ovulation kits, the hope I'd been hoarding for a child that would have fixed us, as if a baby could have patched the holes I'd shot in our foundation. The divorce was swift and surgical. Larry gave me everything he promised, handled every detail with the same efficiency he brought to server maintenance. No drama, no begging, no second chances. Just a systematic dissolution of 8 years together. I tried everything to change his mind. Showed up at his work with lunch, only to be turned away by security. Sent long emails about our history, our vows, the future we'd planned. He responded only to logistics. Pickup times for my belongings, forwarding addresses for mail, the kind of polite professionalism that hurt worse than anger would have. My friends chose sides quickly. The married ones stuck with Larry, protective of their own husbands, suddenly seeing me as a threat. The single ones grew tired of my sob story, especially when they learned I'd been the one to ask for the open marriage. Even Bethany limited our conversations, guilty about her role in the revealing text, but also disgusted by my behavior. "You had a good man," she said during our last real conversation. "And you threw him away for what? Some attention? Some excitement? Was it worth it?" It wasn't. Nathan lost interest the moment I was actually available. James ghosted me when the thrill of sneaking around disappeared. Miguel sent a polite text saying he wasn't looking for anything serious. All the men who'd made me feel special when I was married vanished like smoke once I was single. Meanwhile, Larry thrived. The weight loss continued, 40 pounds in 4 months. He posted photos from hiking trails I didn't know existed in Nebraska, from cooking classes we'd never taken together, from game nights with friends who used to be our friends. And always in the background, just out of frame but unmistakably there, was Marissa. They became Facebook official 3 months after our divorce finalized. The announcement got 247 likes, dozens of comments about how happy everyone was for them, how perfect they looked together, how Larry deserved someone who appreciated him. Each notification felt like a small knife between my ribs. I stalked her page obsessively, torturing myself with their happiness. Marissa at Larry's company picnic, wearing a sundress and laughing at his boss's jokes. Larry at her marathon, holding a sign that said, "You're running great, sweetie," with a terrible pun about programming that she apparently found hilarious. The two of them at a fancy restaurant for her birthday. Larry, in a suit I'd never seen, looking at her like she was everything. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into them at Target. I was buying wine and frozen dinners. They were in the home goods section looking at throw pillows. Larry had lost so much weight I almost didn't recognize him. He wore fitted jeans and a Henley that showed off arms I didn't know he had. Marissa was even prettier in person, natural in a way that made my heavy makeup feel desperate. "Andrea," Larry said, polite but distant. "This is Marissa." "Hi," she said, genuine smile, firm handshake. "Larry's told me about you. I hope you're doing well." I wanted to hate her, wanted to find some flaw, some reason Larry would eventually leave her too. But she was perfectly nice, secure in a way that made it clear she knew she had nothing to worry about. Why would she? She had the upgraded version of the man I'd thrown away. I looked at my cart, a box of cheap Pinot Grigio, frozen lasagna for one, and dry shampoo. Then I looked at theirs. Throw pillows, a new coffee maker, and a starter set of gardening tools. They were building a home. I was just surviving one. "Congratulations on the engagement," I blurted out, noticing the ring I'd been trying not to see. "Oh!" Marissa glanced at Larry, who had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "Thank you. It's still pretty new." New. 6 months after our divorce, and he'd already proposed to someone else. With a ring nicer than the one he'd given me, I noted bitterly. "Well, we should get going," Larry said, hand gentle on Marissa's back. "Good to see you, Andrea. Take care." They walked away, heads bent together, whispering about something that made her giggle and him grin. I abandoned my cart and sat in my car for an hour, sobbing until my face was blotchy and swollen. Not because I still loved Larry. I wasn't sure I ever really had. But because I'd been so wrong about everything. About him, about what I deserved, about how special I thought I was. The pregnancy tests started a month later. Every time my period was a day late, every bout of nausea, every dizzy spell sent me racing to CVS. I convinced myself that if I could just get pregnant, by anyone, I could show Larry what he was missing, could prove I wasn't defective, could maybe guilt him into coming back. But the tests were always negative. My body, which had refused to cooperate when I had a husband who wanted children with me, continued its rebellion now that I had no one. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd cheated partially because our infertility made me feel broken, and now I was more broken than ever, taking pregnancy tests alone in a dim apartment bathroom. Dr. Reeves married a pharmaceutical rep 6 months after dumping me. James got engaged to a CrossFit coach who looked like she could bench press me. Miguel published a poetry collection about toxic relationships that I'm 60% sure included several pieces about me. Everyone moved on, leveled up, found happiness that had nothing to do with the wreckage I'd created. I still work at the hospital, though I transferred to the night shift to avoid the pitying looks and whispered conversations. The new nurses don't know my history, don't know I'm the cautionary tale their training supervisors tell, the one who had it all and threw it away for nothing. Some nights, when the wine hits just right and self-pity feels like comfort, I write Larry emails I'll never send. Long rambling messages about how sorry I am, how wrong I was, how clearly I can see now what I couldn't see then. I tell him about the pregnancy tests, the therapy sessions where I'm learning about attachment issues and self-sabotage, the way I practice being a better person for a relationship I'll never have again. He wouldn't care. Why would he? He has Marissa now, a woman who saw his worth without needing to lose him first. A woman who encourages his interests instead of mocking them. A woman who probably never saved his contact as free dinner in her phone like I had in those early days, back when I thought I was settling. The most pathetic part is that I still check his Facebook every day, still hope to see some crack in their perfect facade. But there's nothing. Just vacation photos and dinner dates and lazy Sunday mornings that should have been mine. Would have been mine if I hadn't been so convinced I deserved better than a devoted husband who loved me exactly as I was. I asked for an open marriage thinking Larry would sit at home, grateful I hadn't left him entirely. Instead, he became the man I'd told myself he could never be, just not for me. Never again for me. The pregnancy test in the trash stares up at me, accusatory in its single-line simplicity. I add it to the pile, another failed attempt at rewriting history, at proving I'm worth something to someone. Tomorrow, I'll buy more, keep trying, keep failing, keep punishing myself for the life I destroyed. But tonight, I'll drink wine and scroll through Marissa's Instagram, watching her live the life I threw away. She posted a photo yesterday, her and Larry at a farmer's market, him carrying sunflowers, both of them glowing with the kind of happiness that can't be faked. The caption read, "Saturday mornings with my favorite person." I was never his favorite person. I realize that now. I was just the person he loved most, until I taught him he deserved better. The apartment is quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the muffled television from next door. This is what I wanted, isn't it? The freedom to explore, to find myself, to not be tied down to a pudgy IT nerd who spent weekends building computers. Turns out what I really wanted was to have my cake and eat it too, to keep Larry as my safety net while I swung from vine to vine, always knowing he'd catch me if I fell. Instead, he cut the net and learned to fly without me, and I'm still falling.